Good evening, everyone. I'm Lloyd, your stress management consultant, to help you make the change from stress to success. And it's lovely to see so many of you here on the call tonight, which is the last of a series of 3 to conclude this short series of webinars in conjunction with Stress Awareness Day, and also to raise money for young minds. But, just before we start, I just want to recap on what Young Minds do. They support children and young people and also their carers through the minefield of mental illness. And, we've been hearing a lot in the news recently that stress is now responsible for actually 95% of mental and physical illnesses, and also a staggering 50% of adult mental illness begins before the age of 15 years old. And so this is one of the reasons why I feel it's so important to support people suffering from stress and also to support young minds. Well, it's been a busy week with the podcast interviews from sufferers of stress-related illnesses and also their carers. On Wednesday, I was sharing with you how to create more positive thought processes for yourself so that you can think more effectively and reduce down the stress levels. Yesterday, Lucy was talking to about holistic therapies and how beneficial they are in supporting you through difficult times and maintaining a level playing field. But don't worry, if you haven't managed to listen to everything, they will be still available to listen to up until midnight on Saturday the 15th of November. But tonight I have the great pleasure of introducing you to Alex Jones, author of Slim, Sexy and Sensational, Discover the New and Easy Way to Weight Loss. She's an expert in nutrition, diet and exercise, the healthy girl. And so, hi Alex.
Hi Kath.
Lovely to have you on the call tonight, and I'll just introduce you and then we can crack on. So I was introduced to Alex through Lotus Coaching and a mentoring package I was a member of, and each month Alex would discuss with us the importance of nutrition, eating a good diet and how it affects our mental as well as our physical state. Alex would also talk about having an appropriate fitness regime as well, and I very quickly realised that Alex knew what she was talking about. She's owned her own gym in the past and she understands how different chemicals in our bodies work with the different foods that we eat and how to maintain a steady, improvement in our diets. So I'd like to hand you over to Alex now so that we can all learn a lot more about how to adjust our insides as well as our outsides. So over to you then, Alex.
Thank you very much, Kath. I just want to say it's lovely to be here and really lovely to be able to help you support stress awareness, and I think you're doing some amazing work this week. So it's a privilege to be part of that. So as Kath says, I'm going to be chatting tonight to you regarding nutrition and exercise, specifically to combat stress and to deal with that. So let's crack on and let's make a start. So first of all, what we really need to do is to understand, what is stress. As Kath has said, she's very knowledgeable about this subject as well. Stress contributes to 95% of all illnesses. So that's a huge amount of illnesses which stress is a contributing factor. So this really is something that I think everybody really needs to be aware of in terms of this information. So I hope I can make it easy to understand for you. So in terms of understanding what happens during stress, the body actually secretes certain hormones. It's known as the fight or flight system. And these hormones, they're there for very good reason. Now, they're hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline. And what happens is they actually flood the body and they move blood flow away from what are considered non-essential functions at that particular time. So things such as digestion, reproduction, and also the immune system. So they have less blood flow, so they actually shut down, and that means that you can get blood to your muscles, and that will help to increase your heart rate and also your blood sugar, and so your insulin, which is another hormone. And the whole idea is that your muscles have sufficient fuel so that you can literally be running away from a lion that happens to be chasing you, because this is all goes back to how we evolved as human beings, millions of years ago. So these fight or flight hormones, they're designed to be on for about 30 seconds at a time only. We're not designed to live in the almost permanent state of fight or flight, which modern life has so many of us in. As I say, we haven't evolved physically to meet the demands of modern life. What happens to these hormones is that they actually raise our blood sugar, and the risks are that that can lead to possible diabetes and weight gain. They raise our heart rate, which can elevate blood pressure to dangerous levels, possibly. And they can also increase fat on the stomach, in particular on the tummy area. If you have fat on the stomach, it's actually called visceral fat, and it's different to fat that's on other parts of the body. It's the most dangerous type of body fat to have, and what it means that basically, unfortunately, if there's fat on the tummy, then there will be fat inside the body, and that could be inside your arteries, around the vital organs, and that's obviously going to be dangerous to your health. So these are physiological responses in the body which can create long-term damage to the health, and they can contribute in the long term, to heart disease, to diabetes, obesity, cancers, etc. As I say, to so many illnesses which are common nowadays. So I think it's really vital to deal with stress now, and not leave it. It's really not something to wait until a later date before you're starting to look at it. So that's sort of, in a nutshell, what happens in our body. So let's look at how to manage stress. Okay, so I hope you like the picture of my chilled out frog, which I found. So what we're going to cover today is sort of us as a whole. As human beings, we have a mind and we have a body, and they both need to be considered when we're planning to be stress-free. So we need to consider all these elements. So we're going to look at mind and mindset in particular, to learn how to take control of our thoughts. We're going to look at relaxation and techniques to help us to do so, to help to take control of our thoughts. And we're also going to look at the body side of things. So to understand how to really support our body so that it can function at its optimum levels, to really ensure that we have things like quality sleep. We're going to cover food and nutrition, exercise, and maybe some food supplements as well. So we're going to cover all those angles. So let's crack on and let's talk about mindset. So now, I've actually heard anxiety described by someone as a situation which someone fears which hasn't happened yet, which they bring into the present moment and look through. So, stress is often accompanied by anxiety, and that's why, I think this is really an interesting quote, because it's something that we often don't necessarily understand, or when we're in the middle of something that's stressful, but we generally tend to stress and get sort of agitated and anxious about something which maybe hasn't happened yet. So we're going to go into that in a little bit more detail, because we all have to deal with particular circumstances and challenges in life. So what I would really recommend is that it's best to try and look to focus on what you can control, on what you can influence, and decide to be as strong as you possibly can, and to think clearly, and to be as relaxed as you can be. Now, that all sounds, very nice, but, hopefully I can give you a few little techniques and tips as well to be able to do that. So what you may like to consider is to decide on your ideal scenario of how you would like to deal with stress. Because I really believe that you can take control of what you're thinking, and by doing so you can change your experience. So making a strong decision to behave in a certain way and to say, actually from now on I'm actually going to be in control, and I'm not going to get so upset or anxious or concerned with certain situations. I'm going to focus on looking for a solution and to, look at what I can control and what I can influence and can change. So as I say, so you need to make a strong decision to be disciplined to follow a particular structure, so that you really do whatever it takes to make sure that you deal with any stress there and then. So rather than allowing it to build up, because obviously stress that's not dealt with is how further issues can occur. So, as I said, so it's about focusing on what you can control. Now, there's no need to be a victim to our own emotions or our thoughts, because as I said, I really believe we have the ability to control how we respond to stress. So, for well-being, I would recommend practicing something called present moment awareness. Okay, so the more present and in the moment or in the now that you are, which you may have heard of, come across this before, the more relaxed both your mind and your body will be. So that means that you're actually practicing doing what you're doing, rather than being caught up in a train of thoughts worrying about something. Now, I'm not saying you don't have to deal with certain situations, but if you are at home cooking the dinner, for example, and you find that you've slipped into a state of anxiety, then the moment you recognize it, you do have the ability to stop that train of thoughts by using, as I say, present moment awareness. So that means that you use all of your senses. Okay, so to become present, in simply just one by one, you would run through your senses. So you would notice, you'd look around you and notice what can you see. You would then notice what you can hear, what noises around you. Then you would notice what you can feel physically. So if you're stood there cooking the dinner, for example, you'd notice how your feet feel on the floor. You'd notice, if how some utensils feel in your hands. If you're doing something else, if you're, might notice if you're sat on a chair, for example, or how your clothes feel, whatever you're wearing. Then you would notice any smells. That's obviously very easy to do when you're cooking, but if you're outside, just breathe in, notice what smells are around you, and also any tastes. So what you would do then is you literally just keep cycling round what you can see, hear, feel, taste and smell. And if you really, really do this, then you'll find that you won't be able to think about what was concerning you previously. So this will absolutely take you out of any train of thought, any worries. Now, practice makes perfect, as with everything. And this really is the kind of thing that you can do at any time, when you're brushing your teeth, when you're eating, when you're talking to somebody. Really give them all of your attention. Give them your full attention. If you're in a meeting at work, again, practice, just looking around you, and if someone's speaking, really pay attention to what they're saying, for example. So it's something, as I say, to practice. The easiest time to become present or practice present moment awareness is when you're actually doing the things that you love to do, because then your mind, you easily naturally pay attention. Obviously those things are going to be different for everybody, but whether it's listening to some music, reading a book or going for a walk, watching movies, spending time with your family and friends, or doing something really, really crazy, like, I don't know, like a bungee jump or something. It doesn't matter. If you love doing it, then you'll naturally, most likely be much more present just because you're enjoying yourself. So really for mindset, it's really about, focusing on what you can control, practicing that present moment awareness, using all of your senses to do so, and really do what you love to do. And it's about having quality time as well. So we're going to move on to that on the next slide, actually. So we're going to talk about relaxation. Okay, so following on, you can really practice that present moment awareness in every moment, obviously, as the name suggests. So wherever you are, the best way is to really take control of your experiences and take control of any stress in your life. So this is all about creating a little strategy, a stress management strategy. And you really do need to give yourself some time to switch off. You really need to make time for that and time for you. And maybe you have to schedule it. It may sound a little bit clinical, but, it is a question of really creating a strategy and doing something different so that you really are changing the stress levels in your life. And life can take over if we allow it. So if you need to put some time in your diary, to book a massage maybe, or book in a coffee with a friend and have a good chat, do that. If you've got to put the time in and book it, that's great, do it. Be disciplined about it. Even if it's taking a bath once the kids have gone to bed, even a short amount of time, which is quality, it will make a difference. So if you're having that time and you are also practicing being present, cycling through each of your senses as you're doing that, you will find that that will become quality time for you. Okay, because as I say, this is all about switching off. Okay, and that doesn't mean switching off and being asleep. It means switching off from the anxious and worrying train of thoughts that may be going on in the mind, and having a break from that. So in terms of some techniques, in terms of relaxation, there are various different techniques. They don't need to be particularly complicated, and the great news is you don't need to spend years practicing until you become any good at them. As I say, if you use all of your senses, as we've already spoken about, you can pick this up really, really fast, and you'll get results fast as well. So 3 ideas or 3 techniques to give a try are: one is to focus on your breathing. So wherever you are, even if you're on the way into work, just focus on your breathing. And again, just run through your senses. But just paying attention to your breath in and out will cause you to just relax. And if you're focusing on your breathing, you won't be able to think about other things. The second thing, now these are, actually I should just say, if you're going to do these, it's really vital that you actually sit somewhere quietly where you won't be disturbed, and you mustn't be driving or operating any kind of machinery or equipment whatsoever. Okay, so if you're going to do something where you're going to close your eyes, you obviously have to be in a safe environment. But you could be on the train on the way into work, on the train or on the bus. But just somewhere safe where you can sit down and close your eyes. So very, very quickly, you literally can close your eyes and just imagine that you have this really, really calm and purifying white light literally coming in and pouring through the top of your head, running all the way down through your body, all the way down out through your feet, and with it, it just takes any stress or worry or upset with it. literally just imagining you have this just calming and purifying and cleansing white light pouring all the way through your body and out. So that's number 2. And number 3 is what I actually find very effective, is to do a short relaxation, just running through each of my body parts individually and making them relax as I go. Excuse me. So again, if you're listening to this and you're driving, you need to either pause this or you need to pull over. Okay, because as I say, it's really vital that you sit somewhere really quietly where you're not going to be disturbed and you're not driving, not operating any kind of machinery whatsoever. So just a really example of a quick relaxation would be literally to close your eyes, breathe in and out deeply, you know, from the bottom of your lungs all the way in and out. And just do that 2 or 3 times and just notice your breath as you're doing so. And then what you would do is just literally bring your attention to the bottom of your feet and allow every single muscle in your feet to relax completely. And then you would move up to your calf muscles and again allow every single muscle in the calves to relax completely. Then you would continue and do the same for your thighs, for your lower back. You would move all the way up your back, vertebrae by vertebrae, all the way up to your shoulders, to the back of your neck, over the top of your head, to your eyes, to your jaw, down your arms, and you'd finish in the center of your stomach. And you'd ensure that every single muscle is completely relaxed as you go. And you just do this at your own pace, you know, and just notice what you notice and enjoy yourself. Because you'll find that, again, as a little bit of practice, you'll find that you really will enjoy yourself. And what I would do at the end is just to finish, imagine again that you've got this wonderful calming and purifying white light, and it pours all the way in through the top of your head, runs all the way down through your body, down your arms, down your legs, out your hands and your feet. And just know and sort of focus that this white light is clearing and calming, and it purifies all your cells in your body. And what it does is it actually takes with it any stress, any worries or any upset, and that just leaves you feeling perfectly calm, you know, completely in control. And what happens is when you open your eyes from the end of this, you do feel really calm and relaxed, but you also feel really alert, and you'll find that those feelings just stay with you. You know, so the more that you do these techniques, the more practice you become, you'll find that they, you know, very quickly and very positively can affect your mood and your ability to deal with stress. You'll find that you deal with things very differently. So I hope that gives you a few little, some really, you know, useful techniques. So we're going to pop on to the next slide, and we're going to talk about sleep. So it's really important to understand that sleep is equally important for our health and well-being as you would imagine that good nutrition and exercise is. I know we're all so super busy, and you know, we're all trying to cram in as much as possible into our lives, and sleep is often a commodity that we tend to do without, certainly at certain times. But the quality of our sleep, now it directly affects the quality of our waking life. You know, it affects our mental sharpness, it affects our mood and our productivity, our creativity as well. It affects emotional balance, physical vitality. It can affect your weight and your health, particularly in terms of a reduced immune system function. So you end up with less resistance to colds and infections. You can end up with an increased risk of diabetes, heart disease, other, you know, major health issues. So quality of sleep, it really is vital to address. It's something that really mustn't go unaddressed, shall we say. Because what happens is when we're sleeping, that's the time when our body is actually restoring itself and making itself ready for the next day. So that's why it makes sense that lack of sleep affects us so much the following day. Because the body will do the majority of its recharging, shall we say, between the hours of 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. So it's actually important to be asleep during that time so that you don't disrupt the process. So ideally, it's quite important to go to bed before 11 p.m. so that you can actually take full advantage of the body's natural restoration process. The optimum amount of sleep for an adult is 7.5 to 9 hours a night. So it's a fair amount. And that's really why there's a difference between having enough sleep to get by on and really having enough, getting that quality sleep. So our bodies are designed to follow a natural sleep-wake cycle, and that's normally in line with the patterns and the times of daytime and darkness naturally. So that's why it is more natural to go to bed earlier and wake up earlier to get, and obviously that means that you then get your sleep between the 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. recharging times. So obviously, the problem is because of modern life, we're unlikely to follow those patterns, and that can lead to all sorts of issues. Now, just consider, you may be sleep deprived if you need an alarm clock to wake up every morning, if you constantly have to hit the snooze button, and you really struggle to get out of bed every morning. Also, if you feel sluggish in the afternoon, if you get sleepy in meetings, if you get that mid-afternoon slump. Also, if you fall asleep while watching TV in the evenings, and if you feel the need to sleep in much later at the weekend, so you're having a lie-in to catch up on sleep. So sleep actually follows a pattern of moving backwards and back and forth between deep, what's known as restorative, if I can pronounce, restorative sleep, and also REM sleep, where you're actually more alert and you're actually dreaming. So both of these stages, they actually combined, they form a complete sleep cycle, and a sleep cycle is roughly 90 minutes in duration. And through the night, we'll actually repeat those sleep cycles 4 to 6 times, obviously depending on how long you're sleeping. So ideally, if you can, I'm sure you've all experienced waking up early, say at something, 5 a.m. And then if you go back to sleep for an hour or so, and then your alarm wakes you up, you feel groggy and much less awake than you did at 5 a.m., not that much earlier. And that's really because you've been woken up in the middle of a sleep cycle. So it's actually, ideally, what you can do is to set your alarm so that it's in multiples of 90 minutes. So for example, if you go to bed at 11 p.m., then you set your alarm for 6:30. That would give you 7.5 hours of sleep, rather than waking up at 7 a.m. or 7:30. You'll likely feel more refreshed at 6:30 a.m. Even if you're getting an extra 30 or 60 minutes of sleep, you'll still be getting up at the end of a sleep cycle. Because then your brain and your body, they're already close to being awake naturally. So our time spent being asleep, it's rejuvenating and it's nourishing to the body and to the mind. So you can be more productive and motivated during your waking hours. So it's really important to value this information and to really get the best from sleep. So the ways to do that is to really to create some consistency with your sleep, and ideally try to go to bed at the same time so that you get up at the same time each day as much as possible. Again, we've already said, aim for 7.5 hours of sleep every night. Now, it's important to actually have a really dark room. So keep your bedroom as dark as possible, because light can actually disrupt your internal clock. and the body's natural production of melatonin, again, which is a hormone, and that's what's vital for your sleep and also for your health. Okay, so try and keep your room dark. Avoid distraction, so move any alarm clocks and electrical devices and your mobile phone ideally away from your bed, so there's no light which can affect your sleep. And also there are no electromagnetic frequencies. So electrical devices and mobile phones obviously give out electronic signals, so they can distract people, and there is a school of thought that they are unhealthy for us. So ideally you want those away from the bed. Avoid loud alarms. It's stressful for the body if you're jolted awake, you know, so you can buy things like a sun alarm clock. It gradually gets lighter and lighter, and so it stimulates the same effect that sunrise would have, so that you would wake up naturally. Okay, so that's something to try out. They're very effective. Avoid TV in the bedroom. So avoid watching TV in the bedroom. Keep your bedroom for you know, for sleep, and certainly avoid working in the bedroom, and as I say, ideally watching TV, because that the light from the TV screen is a bit like, you know, an alarm clock light. It's like an unnatural light, so again that can affect your sleep. So prepare yourself for bed. So avoid heavy, sugary, carby type foods close to bedtime, because they actually raise your blood sugar, and that can actually delay your sleep. And then the drop in blood sugar which occurs can also actually wake you up after you have gone off to sleep. So because they're all affecting your hormones, your insulin, as I say, is a hormone. So ideally avoid anything that's too heavy, because your body's trying to then work hard to digest the food when really it needs to be working hard to rejuvenate your body, all your cells. So ideally try and have your last meal 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed, in an ideal world. Also avoid caffeine too soon before bed, because again that can affect your sleep. So can alcohol. It can prevent you actually entering into the deep sleep stage, which is where the body does most of its rejuvenation. So that's one reason why you can wake up the next morning feeling less than healthy, shall we say. Alcohol will also dehydrate you, so you get a double whammy. So you don't get the restorative sleep, or the body can't rejuvenate itself, and you get dehydrated. So it's best to have that, keep that to a minimum ideally, or ideally what you can do is drink a large glass of water before going to bed, because you can at least try and combat the dehydration side of things. Look to stop work, you know, and certainly an hour before bedtime, ideally 2 hours before, so that you have a chance to relax. You know, you need to wind down before bed, and give yourself that chance, because your mind needs to clear, and sort of stop thinking about the stresses of the day, shall we say. You know, and maybe create a little routine before bedtime. So perhaps you get into bed and you read a book, or you write in a journal, you do some form of meditation or relaxation, you listen to some music. You know, you put on some nice, I don't know, you burn nice candles, or have some essential oils in the room, or you take a bath. You know, find what works for you and your partner, you know, if there's two of you, but create a little routine that creates the environment where you can relax before bed. So that's all going to help to enhance your quality of sleep. you know, you may not be able to follow all of these suggestions, so just go with it, obviously go with as many as you can. And even by implementing some, you know, you're at least creating some form of consistency and trying to sleep in multiples of 90 minutes to get that full sleep cycle. You know, even just doing that, you could really improve the quality of your sleep and ultimately the quality of your waking hours, which is obviously what we're looking to achieve, because this is all about quality of life. In the bottom line, isn't it? So with that, I hope that gives you some good info on sleep. Okay, so we need to speak about nutrition, because obviously that is a huge area, and very often it's the first thing that will suffer if we're stressed out and we're busy. You know, we just find we just don't have the time to cook. You know, we end up eating foods which are, you know, fast foods, easy foods to be able to prepare. And unfortunately, it's good quality nutrition is what will help to keep our energy levels high and the body nourished effectively, and that ultimately is going to help you deal with stress much more effectively. So we already know that stress affects our hormones. Now we've been speaking about cortisol and adrenaline and insulin. So the foods that we eat can affect the insulin in our body. So they'll affect how much our blood sugar is. Well, it's important to understand that to eat foods which will help to regulate our blood sugar and the insulin production, because as we know that insulin is a hormone and we want to keep it in balance, because if the as we eat foods, we want to ensure that they are allowing the body to function as naturally as possible, because we want to avoid contributing to extra stress on the body, and we obviously want to create the conditions that the body needs to flourish. You know, so nutrition, it can be a really confusing area, and there is a lot of conflicting information out there. So what I really like to do is I like to take the guesswork out of things and to only do what science shows us is the answer. And what it shows us is, you may or may not know this, but the most important food to avoid is actually sugar. Because what happens is sugar, when we eat it, in whatever form, so it may not, obviously there are the obvious forms of sugar, but there are also the less obvious forms, such as carbohydrates. And when we eat sugar, it stimulates an insulin response in the body, and that can actually cause your energy to drop down. So as the insulin response drops back down, it then brings your energy with it. So if you're eating foods which contain sugar, it can create a craving for more of those foods, because as the insulin levels drop back down again, it creates what's known as a false hunger. So you may not have actually, you may have eaten quite recently, but if you've eaten something that's quite, that has created a high insulin response, you're going to get quite a low drop back down again quite quickly. And that's really what will create this false hunger, and you'll feel as though you need to eat again. And you can end up getting caught in a bit of a vicious cycle of these false energy highs and lows, and that will create stress on the body. In addition, it can causes you to gain fat. What we also would need to do is ideally aim to keep caffeine and alcohol to a minimum. because they unfortunately will fall into a similar category. They will negatively affect your hormones. So caffeine and alcohol will affect those fight or flight hormones, the cortisol and adrenaline, and also insulin. So you get a triple effect with those. So just to clarify, the types of foods to look to eat would be low glycemic. So there's actually something called the glycemic index, and this is actually a measure of the effects that foods have on our blood sugar. So you can actually work out which foods are the lower on the scale that they are, the better. You can easily do a search on the internet and find a glycemic index and work out, look at what kind of foods are better. As I say, the foods which are higher glycemic are going to be more the starches and the carbohydrates. So the breads and the rice and the pasta and potatoes, those sorts of foods are going to be higher glycemic, as well as the obvious foods which have sugar as well. Foods which are high in fat, natural fats, good fats, or protein will have very little effect on the blood sugar. High glycemic foods cause a rapid increase in the blood sugar. So it's all about eating foods to regulate your blood sugar in order to maximize your energy. So the types of foods we're going to look at on the next slide, the types of foods to really avoid are going to be, okay, so yes, so as we've just mentioned, so obviously the kind of foods that contain sugar are going to be cakes and biscuits and sweets and desserts, etc. But you also need to be aware that starches are high in sugar. So foods such as I've just said, the bread, the rice, pasta and potatoes. So these are going to be the worst foods to eat in terms of sugar content. They are high glycemic. And these foods, they give you those energy highs and those crashes. They will negatively affect your hormones and they can put stress on your system. And unfortunately, they will cause you to gain body fat, certainly over a period of time. So I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but unfortunately, you've also got any processed foods, man-made and ready-made foods, and fast foods and fried foods. So unfortunately these are probably the kind of foods that most people would tend to end up eating if they are stressed and time poor. However, they're not necessarily going to take you in the direction of help. They're not going to help you take control and deal with stress more effectively. So let's look at the kind of foods which you do want to choose on the next slide. So we'd be looking to eat plenty of good quality proteins. Okay, so these are foods such as eggs and yogurts, sugar-free, because you need to keep a check on ingredient labels to make sure there's no hidden sugars in certain foods. Cottage cheese is really great, fish and seafoods, lean meat and poultry. Ideally grass-fed meats, so they are hormone-free. They're foods which are meats which have been naturally reared. The animals have been naturally reared. Again, organic eggs and chicken. Again, because that's going to give you a better quality of nutrition. You would want to then add in some healthy fats, such as you've got the extra virgin olive oil, nuts and seeds, and avocados. You've got the wild-caught salmon, mackerel and sardines. And then you'd also want to eat plenty of green vegetables. Okay, salad leaves, and some smaller amounts of low glycemic fruits such as berries and citrus fruits, because you still have sugar, natural sugars within fruits. If you're obviously avoiding the foods on the previous slide, most of the starchy carbs, then you can still eat carbohydrates, but it's just a question of switching to lower glycemic versions, such as whole wheat or rye bread, brown rice, sweet potatoes, quinoa, some of those berries and citrus fruits again, and as I say, plenty of those green leafy vegetables. So what I like to do is I make a mashed potato, non-mashed potato, shall we say, and I use cauliflower. And I make it in exactly the same way as you would mash, and it's absolutely delicious. The same you can do with sweet potatoes or pumpkin or squash. So they're still starches, but they are much lower glycemic, and they do give you actually a lot more nutrition as well. You'll get much more nutrition in those foods than you would in just normal potatoes, white potatoes. So it's really just a question of, as I say, doing a search online, and you can easily find out, find a glycemic index online and see which foods are lower than others. But this is a general rule. These kind of foods will, they'll have a great effect on you. There are great side effects of eating this way, because not only will you get to feel lots more energy, because your hormones will become balanced and function much more efficiently and effectively, but you'll also stay feeling much fuller for longer. You'll feel much more satisfied. You'll burn fat off the body too, and all of those are going to have, you know, fantastic overall effects on your health and your well-being. And as I say, these will help you to deal with stress in a much more effective way if you're feeling healthier and stronger, and you have more energy available to you, so that you're not having to deal with the energy crashes or highs and lows from the insulin going on. If that's all disappeared, then your body can function much more effectively, and you'll find that you function much more effectively. You'll have more mental clarity as well. So you'll be able to deal with things more effectively too. So I hope that gives you quite a good overview in terms of nutrition and the kind of foods to avoid and the ones to go for. So let's move on and look at exercise. So, you know, I'm sure, you know, many of us probably consider exercise to be, is there to keep us in shape and to keep us heart healthy. But exercise, it actually has an abundance of benefits way beyond the aesthetic ones, and arguably much more important reasons for doing so, because exercise is considered one of the best preventative medicines. Now, there was a study that found that many people started an exercise program. Initially, their motivation was to lose weight and to obviously improve their appearance, but they continued to exercise because of the benefits to their overall well-being. So some of those benefits are, they really help to reduce anxiety. So they reduce anxiety, and they help to boost your mood. Exercise has undeniable effects on our mood, particularly with reducing anxiety and depression. There was a study done at Princeton University, and it showed that exercising naturally, it helps induce this natural state of calm in the same way as the drug Valium would do. And obviously Valium is not a natural approach. So the mood-boosting benefits of exercise, they work immediately after a workout, but they also work in the long term. Because exercise, it will boost the levels of chemicals in the brain, and they can help to buffer some of the effects of stress. And as I said, it's one of the most effective preventative and treatment strategies for depression. So it's really, really important in terms of our mental health. It's also going to boost your immune system. So exercise, what it does, it also will, it increases the circulation and the blood flow throughout the body. So what happens is the lymph system, which is part of the body, that directly affects our immune system. Now, movement and exercise is the only way to actually stimulate the lymph system. Now, the heart is effectively a muscle to pump and the blood around our system. So that will happen on its own. But as I say, the lymph system doesn't have anything to stimulate it other than us moving. So exercise is a way to ensure that your immune system has a much better way of fighting off illnesses before it spreads. So it's going to help improve your immune system. There are many studies out there that show that regular exercise helps to prevent just even the common cold. And there's also those studies, they also show that it's really important to keep exercising in the long term, because benefits increase over time. So the benefits grow over time. Exercise is going to help you sleep better. So again, there's research showing that regular exercise, people who undertake regular exercise, they report that they sleep better. They report that they fall asleep faster and easier. So they have no need for sleeping pills than perhaps they may have done previously to exercising. You know, I know that I sleep well if I'm physically tired and not just mentally tired, and I'm sure everyone would agree with that. It's also going to help to strengthen the brain, because that increased blood flow from exercising will benefit the brain. It helps us to function better almost immediately. So that's why very often after exercising, people can say that they feel much more focused and they're mentally more clear after working out. Because regular exercise, it can actually promote the growth of new brain cells, and it can also strengthen and protect them from damage. So, you know, many of these changes, they will boost brain cell function, and they can protect us from diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and from stroke. And they can really help prevent age-related degeneration. So all of these things that we're talking about, they're all going to work towards us aging slower and, you know, more naturally, so that we age, you know, in a way that we stay healthy and fit. You know, so I think it's really important, you know, to get active. You know, so I'm just going to, bring up the final slide. We're nearly done. It's really important to just get active, and, you know, as I say, the best exercise that you can do is the one that you do go and do. Now, I don't mean that to be cheeky, but, you know, if you don't like doing a certain exercise, don't force yourself. Find something that you do like, you know, but just in general, get as active as you can. You know, take the stairs, stop taking the lift. Even if you've got to work yourself up to, you know, doing an extra flight if you live in an apartment. I actually live in an apartment on the 4th floor, and I walk up those 4 floors. Maybe not if I've got lots of bags of shopping, but generally I walk up those 4 floors every day, and I bound up them now. Maybe didn't do that initially, but it's very easy. It doesn't take long. I would walk up the escalators if I'm going into London and taking the tube. I'd always try and walk up escalators. You know, jump off the bus or the tube or the train and stop early if you can and walk. You know, get active at lunchtime. Take a walk at lunchtime, or even go for a meeting. If you can, if it's appropriate, go for a meeting, but go for a walk. Because it's all about staying as active as you possibly can throughout the day, throughout your lifetime. Because it's going to stimulate your lymph system. We know it's going to help improve your immune system. It's going to help strengthen your skeletal structure, which is going to help to ward off issues in later life, such as osteoporosis, for example. There's a whole host of things which exercise is going to ward off. Even going for, you know, walking, it's weight bearing, it's heart healthy. The body's designed to do it. It's all a natural way of ensuring that you're keeping your cells active, and you're focusing on your longevity. it's also, what I will say, it's a brilliant, brilliant time to practice present moment awareness. So you really get to cover all angles if you're going for a walk, because again, you can look at, notice what you can see, hear, feel, taste and smell. So it's perfect. And what you're doing is you're giving yourself that time to switch off. Even if it is just a short 15-20 minute walk during your lunch hour, even if you work from home, it's still a question of just pop out and get some fresh air and switch off, because this is all going to contribute to helping you create a stress busting strategy for your life. So I hope that really, really does give you an insight and some really helpful information and tips on how to combat stress. I'm just going to pop up a little slide at the end just so you can, I think you may have seen my picture already, but you can see if you wanted to get in touch with me, I'd be delighted to hear from you. You can see the ways to get in touch here, and I just thought I'd show you a picture of my book cover. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand back to Kath and say thank you so much for having me here as part of your I Just Want to Be Happy week. I'm really, really delighted to be part of it, and I know you're doing some amazing work. So thank you very much, and good evening.
Thank you, Alex. That was fabulous, and you've presented us tonight with so much information, and listening to you, it really connects beautifully with the podcasts that have been going out from, the sufferers with stress-related illnesses and the carers, and, what I was talking about on Wednesday and Lucy was talking about yesterday. And it just goes to show how everything really links up, fitness, diet, sleep, relaxation, all of those different things. And so, that has been fantastic. And yes, you've just covered so much information. You can always message me on my website, which is at the bottom of the screen there, kathlloyd.co.uk, if you want to send Alex any questions, and I will pass those on to her for you. Also, she's offering short consultation, free consultation of about 20 minutes. And again, if you leave the message through my website, but that will close, you can only leave the messages up until midday tomorrow. So that's midday Saturday, tomorrow. And then Alex will contact you through next week. But just to round things off, I just wanted to remind you about how to donate to Young Minds. And you can do that through either my website, which is at the bottom of the screen, or following the link there. And also, to help raise money, there is a photo competition where you could win a £25 worth photo shoot voucher with Venture Photographic. And the title of the competition is What Represents Happiness to You? So that could be some gorgeous pictures of your children, your pets, the sunrise, the sunset, a place that is very special to you. And it would be fantastic to share those ideas with everybody else. And also there is going to be, from the photographs, a calendar as well. And all the money that we're raising around this is all going to go to Young Minds. So leave information for Alex, and also if you did want to leave any information to Lucy as well, just go onto my website and you can make a connection there through my contact at www.kathlloyd.co.uk. And this is a time now for me to say thank you very much, and just to remind you that all of the podcasts, these 3 webinars will be still available to listen to until next Saturday, midnight next Saturday. So if you haven't got to listen to everything that you wanted to on the actual day, then you can log in and listen to those at another time. So thank you very much to everybody. Thank you, Alex, and I hope that you've enjoyed it. I've certainly enjoyed it, presenting all of these different things to you, and have a fabulous evening. Good night.